Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca, and in this video I'm going to quickly go over how to get the best sounding rotary speaker or Leslie effect for use with organ sounds on your Yamaha DGX-670. I've seen a lot of confusion in various forums on getting a rotary effect working with the DGX, and given my personal newly found interest in playing Hammond organ, I wanted to figure this out for myself. So let's check it out. So just in case you don't know what a rotary speaker is, here is a super quick background. Rotary speakers were created decades ago, with the best known one being the Leslie speaker. These have been used with all sorts of instruments over the years, but they are best known for being used with organs, in particular the Hammond organ. A rotary speaker will have one or possibly two speakers that spin in a large wooden cabinet, which adds a very unique and super cool kind of an oscillating effect to an organ sound. And in most versions of this speaker, there are two speeds, slow and fast. Okay, so I know this is a Yamaha DGX-670 video, so why am I in front of my new Yamaha CK88 stage piano? Basically because it has some pretty good rotary speaker functionality, so I wanted to quickly demonstrate how this typically works with keyboards that have more organ functionality built in. Things like the drawbars that you see here, percussion controls, vibrato chorus, and then also, of course, the rotary speaker controls. So if I play organ without a rotary on my CK88, it sounds like this. Then if I flick the rotary on to the slow speed, you can hear the rotation start to oscillate as the speaker spins. Now I'm going to keep holding this chord down, and I'm going to switch back and forth between slow and fast for the rotary speaker. So you can hear it speed up and then slow down again. Now, an important thing to note here, and remember this for later in the video, is that this is a smooth transition. It's gradual. It doesn't just switch immediately from one speed to the other. That's how it should sound. Okay, so on to the DGX-670. Now I have to admit the documentation on this really isn't great, hence all the confusion in the online forums. So if I choose the default organ voice, which actually says right on it, Jazz Rotary, it does sound cool. And I can hear a rotary oscillating. Now you'll notice that this is a super articulation voice from the SART above the voice name, so this tells me that I can trigger an alternate version of the voice. So my assumption was, given the name of the voice, that this would be a change in speed of the rotary speaker. So to check out how to trigger super articulation, I press the info button, and it says use the left pedal. Well, a couple of things here. A, what is the super articulation effect? I really wish these screens told you what the effect was. And B, what if I don't have a triple pedal unit? What if I just have a sustain pedal? So I do have a triple pedal unit connected to my DGX-670. It's actually a third-party portable triple pedal unit. A review on that's coming soon. And I also have a normal sustain pedal connected to the generic sustain pedal port. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here, including how you can customize what your auxiliary sustain pedal does. But before I do that, though, I just wanted to mention something that is good to know. What each pedal does on the DGX is going to depend on what voice you have selected. So for example, if I exit out of here, and I switch to a piano voice, I'll choose the CFX Grand. Then if I press the direct access button, and then I press any of my pedals, you're going to see what each pedal is set to do. So the auxiliary pedal, which is just the generic sustain pedal plugged into the quarter-inch port, it's set to be on sustain. And as you would expect for a piano voice, the triple pedal unit is set to sustain, sostenuto, and soft, just like on an acoustic piano. Now, if I switch to my organ voice, and then do the same thing, press direct access and press any of the pedals, you're going to see they're all set up for the same thing they were on the piano voice, with the exception that the left pedal on the triple pedal unit is set to something called Modulation Alt. Now what this does is toggle a modulation effect back and forth between two settings. Now I'm not a sound waveform specialist, and while modulation can at first seem to be kind of a similar sounding effect as to what a rotary speaker does, they're not the same thing. It is easy, especially if you're like me and new to organs and rotary speakers, to possibly mistake a change in modulation for a rotary speaker speeding up or slowing down, but there is actually a difference, and I will demo that a bit later on. But let's take a listen. This is what the voice sounds like without having touched the pedal. Now if I just press the left pedal down and lift it up, and then I play that chord again, you can hear the modulation going quite fast. So basically it's kind of like a vibration. Then I'm going to press the pedal again. And then the modulation has slowed down. So for now, assume I think a modulation change is good enough. I'm just going to use this to mimic changes in the speed of my rotary speaker. Well, not so fast. This time, if I just hold down a chord and use my left pedal, listen to what happens as I switch the modulation back and forth. Because this is basically instantly switching directly from one sample to another, you can hear a momentary pause between the changes in modulation. And then the change in modulation instantly jumps from one speed to the other. So not only does the pause not sound so great, this is also not how a switch between slow and fast on a rotary speaker should sound. Well, not to worry, there is a far better way to do this. And to be honest, I'm not sure why Yamaha didn't set up what I'm about to show you as a default for the organ voices instead. Basically, what we have to do here is a two-step process. You change the DSP for your chosen organ to be a rotary DSP effect instead of the default, which is typically going to be some type of an amplifier effect. And then the second thing you do is set up one of your pedals to trigger a rotary speaker speed change. So if I go back to my voice menu for my organ voice, and I press the voice set button, and you can scroll between these different tabs in here. I'm going to go to the effects tab, and then I'm going to go down to the DSP, which is number 2, and then I'm going to scroll on the type way down until I start to see rotary speaker effects. I'm going to choose, I've tried a few of these. I'm going to choose Rotary Speaker 4 because it's got a very clear sounding rotary speaker effect. So now when I just play normally, you can hear the rotary oscillating nicely here. You can also notice actually how that's different from just modulation, which is just kind of a vibration. This is an oscillation instead. So from here, I could press save to save this as a custom voice configuration. I'm actually not going to bother with that yet. You'll notice when I press exit, I'm going to get warned that if I switch to a different voice, I'm going to lose the changes I just made. But that's okay for now, so I'm just going to hit exit. Okay, so now on to step 2, which is setting up a pedal to trigger this rotary DSP effect. I'm going to use the auxiliary pedal for this, so this will also answer the earlier questions of how to change what each pedal does and what to do if you only have the one pedal and you don't have a triple pedal unit. I'm going to exit out to the main menu. I'm going to press direct access again. I'm going to press my auxiliary pedal to open up the pedal configuration screen. Now it was set to sustain. Now you might think that I should switch this to be the articulation, because this is a super articulation voice. So I'm going to do that, and then let's see if this works. So I'm pressing the sustain pedal, nothing's happening. Well, that's because that's actually not the right thing to choose. Instead of choosing articulation, you want to choose organ rotary slow or fast. So I'm going to exit out of here. Now let's try this out. I'll press the pedal. And there it is. A nice smooth switch between a slow and a fast rotary speaker. So I'm going to just tap this pedal a few times and listen to how gradual and smooth the speed changes are. So compare that to the modulation effect that is set up by default with the left pedal on the triple pedal unit. Now, hopefully you're using headphones so I can really demonstrate the difference between modulation and the rotary speaker. So I'm going to first switch the modulation effect back and forth. So this is the modulation, left pedal on the triple pedal unit. Now try to ignore the vibrating modulation And listen carefully instead for the rotary oscillating in circles. Now, if you listen carefully, you're going to notice that even though the speed of the modulation is going from slow to fast, the spinning rotary is still going at the same slow speed as I switch back and forth with the modulation. So you can still hear the rotaries going slowly. Now if I press my sustain pedal to switch the oscillation, now you can hear that speed up. And then slow down again. Okay, so now if you want to save your settings for next time, you've got a couple of choices. You can save this in a registration bank. Now, I did make a tutorial on how to use the registration memory on the DGX, and I will link to that in the description below if you want to check that out. But just very quickly to do that, if you want to save all your changes in a registration bank, you just press memory. Make sure that both the voice and the pedal are included in this checklist here so that they get included in what you're saving, and then just press an available bank to save it. So now every time I hit that bank, it's going to load all of those settings. Now my second option is to just save the voice as a custom user voice. This is what we saw earlier on. So from the voice menu, when I press voice set, you can see this is where we set up that rotary speaker effect. Now if I want to save this as a custom voice, I can do that. So I just press save, and then I'll hit save again, and I'll just accept the default voice and go OK. So now I've got a custom voice here. But one thing I want to mention before I go and just demonstrate this is if I scroll over to controller, you can see in the custom voice setup, you have no way to specify what you want the auxiliary pedal to do. The auxiliary pedal isn't included in custom voices when you save them. You can include it in a registration, but in the custom voice itself, it doesn't get included. So as a result, if I load this custom voice, the auxiliary pedal is just going to be set to do whatever it was set to do the last time you set it. So as an example, I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to choose a piano voice, so CFX Grand. Then I'm going to press Direct Access, press any of the pedals. Now it is still set to the rotary speaker because that's what it was last set to, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to set that back to sustain. So now it's back on sustain again. So now if I go to choose a voice and I go up to the user tab and I choose my custom voice, and then I press direct access and press the pedal, you're going to see it's still set to sustain, and that's because that custom voice doesn't include the auxiliary pedal. So what you could do here is if you did have a triple pedal unit, then you, instead of using the auxiliary pedal to control the rotary speaker, you could instead use one of the triple pedals that does get included in the custom voice set. But to be quite honest, which method you use is totally up to you. It's going to depend, first of all, on whether you have a triple pedal unit. If you don't, then you're going to have to use the registration memory option since you can't save what the auxiliary pedal does within a custom voice. For me, I would probably use registrations for all of this kind of thing, but which method you choose is up to you. So just to sum up this video, how are the organ voices and effects on the DGX-670? Overall, not bad, especially if you're not an experienced or hardcore organ player, because the source samples are pretty good. And the fact that you can get a rotary effect working is a good thing. The fact that the DGX doesn't have drawbars, organ percussion effects, and all the fancier organ stuff like organ-centric keyboards like my Yamaha CK88 do have, does mean the hardcore organ enthusiast is probably going to find the organ functionality a bit lacking on the DGX. But for those of us that are just happy to mess around with some organ voices or have some cool voices to play their favorite 1960s organ song with, it's great. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you are interested in learning more about organs and how they work, in particular the Hammond organ, I actually just did a video on all of the organ functionality on my Yamaha CK88 stage piano. But the CK88 aside, included in that video is a super cool segment from my first ever guest on my channel, pro keyboardist and Hammond organ player Marine Lacoste. She's also the founder and head instructor of a new course that I'm currently working on, Online Rock Lessons. She does an intro to what all of the controls do on a real Hammond organ, and then I demo those features on my Yamaha. So if you're interested at all in organ playing, check that video out, even if you're not interested in the Yamaha CK88. Just watch the part on Marine's demo. It's super cool. So thanks again for checking this video out and visiting the channel. If you like the content, please feel free to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. That does really help me out. So thanks again for stopping by. Happy piano and organ playing, and have an awesome day.